Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio and TV. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. This is the broadcast for October 24th in the year of our Lord 2025, promoting God, family, country, protecting life, liberty, and property. That's who we are. That's what we do on your radio, ladies and gentlemen, and TV now. You got to like that too, right? Dr. Bradley ought to be with us in a little bit. As you know, we reject revolution. Unless it's a Jesus revolution, then we're in, because we follow the Prince of Peace. I don't know how to respond to the things that are going on here, ladies and gentlemen. On one hand, I love many things that the president does. On the other hand, there's just things I just cannot understand that's happening. Let me just give you an example. President Trump just pardoned, how do you say this thing? Shangpeng? Zhao, I guess is his name. He's the founder of finance on Thursday, I guess. I don't know. I guess it's Binance. Is that how you say it? Binance. It's not ByteDance. It's not like the TikTok thing. It's Binance or whatever. Zhao, whose company is the largest crypto exchange globally, pleaded guilty in 2023, failing to maintain, and this is an interesting wording here, an effective anti-money laundering program. He served nearly 4 months in prison, but now he's got the pardon. The Justice Department and the Treasury Department reported that Binance ended up paying a record $4.3 billion as a fine, of course, accepted federal monitors for several years as well. The pardon may allow Zhao to engage more actively in U.S. markets, although they say a Treasury monitorship is still in effect. Now, Trump has a connection to Zhao, and it includes overlaps in the crypto world. Liberty Financial, which is Donald Trump's family. Anyway, the bottom line is this guy basically got pardoned by Trump, and Trump has a lot of financial overlap or involvement with this guy in the crypto world. Now, of course, the White House spokesman, or press secretary Caroline Leavitt, basically said, hey, the war on crypto by the Biden administration has ended. Well, I don't really want a war on crypto. I don't want a war on crypto, but I also don't want Donald Trump pardoning people. Following his pardon and release, Zhao expressed gratitude towards Trump and emphasized his commitment to U.S. crypto and crypto leadership is what it's called. I don't know what crypto leadership means, but I guess if you're a big boy making a lot of money from crypto, you're into crypto leadership. But I look at this thing as, why on earth is President Trump pardoning Champagne, I guess it's CV in quotes, Zhao, the founder of Binance? So I don't know why Trump is doing this. You've got folks like Steve Stockman who deserve a complete pardon. He just got a commuting of a sentence, which we're grateful for. But we don't even have a pardon for Steve Stockman. That's in my opinion, American hero congressman that took on Lois Lerner at the IRS. He really has done a lot of good, and he doesn't even have a pardon. But yet this, Chinese, I don't know, the founder of Binance, is this guy a Chinese guy? I just don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Now, he paid, his company paid $4.3 billion. And I look at that and I just go, that's a lot of money to pay, but who got that money? The government? I mean, at some point, I just don't understand what's happening here. What is Trump thinking? And then when it turns out that he's got personal financial ties due to Trump's family crypto company, and then this guy overlaps with them, and they're all getting rich together and all pardoning one another. It's a bad look, Donald, even if it's legitimate. Even if you're like, hey, it isn't fair, he was railroaded, it wasn't true, or he was wronged. The problem is this one's a little too close. The problem is this one is just too over the top. Dr. Bradley, welcome back, sir. Hope you had a delightful time off, and welcome to the show, sir.
Well, we've been plenty busy, let me tell you, buddy. We never have a dull moment.
Take off and rest. You didn't go home like Congress? Come on, doctor.
Oh man, I've been on furlough. You know, these I'm broken down. I'm broken down because of the breakdown on the government. No, I'm just mocking the whole facade that's going on right now. But I jumped in the very end of your discussion about this pardon, and it is an absolute enigma to me. Shades of our good buddy Hunter Biden. As you say, the optics on this thing are just absolutely, and they're wrong. I mean, that's the most simple thing I can say. And it seems like good buddies help good buddies out. Scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You say, why? And there may be some payola. Who knows? There's investments, maybe. I mean, they don't call them payola. But they basically do. They say, "I'll let you play in my game."
It's like $4.3 billion in payola, right?
But like you say, who got it? And the thing that's really interesting to me, a great enigma. There's so many enigmas I don't even know where to begin. But one enigma is always, "Oh yeah, you have a fine to pay to the IRS, whatever." Who got that money? I mean, every time you turn around.
The question. Exactly. And the other thing is, if I make 10 billion, but I pay you 4 billion, and then I make 20 billion and I pay you 10 billion, hey, we can keep that going all day. It's like I tell my kids whenever they think they want to, play games or play a slot machine or whatever, I'm like, listen, I'll make sure you win every single time. Every dollar you give me, I'll give you 50 cents back. You'll make, 50%, 100% every time. And, and my kids are like, no way, I'm not doing that, Dad. That's a ripoff. I'm like, you got it. That's how it works, right?
It is.
And now we see this scenario where Trump has these overlaps financially with this guy because of the crypto world and his family crypto company. And even if we don't know all the details, it's just the worst look you could possibly imagine. It's just fodder for any enemy of Donald to just absolutely use that against him forever. And it is really bad, in my opinion, scenario, Dr. Bradley.
Well, your statement, even if we don't know the details, it's especially because we don't know the details. Well, I mean, think about this for about a nanosecond and say, Trump is always long on generalities and short on details. And this is one that's that way too. But, and I heard Carolyn Levitt's montage of I don't know. They says, he's exercising his constitutional prerogative of pardoning. Okay, big deal. But if you're using something that has bad optics, I mean, like he could, if Epstein was still alive, he could pardon him. He could pardon anybody and everybody.
And he probably would.
Well,
I'm just waiting for the Bill and Hillary and the Barack Obama pardons to come.
Well,
on one hand, we say they've committed criminal activity and they should be prosecuted. And, oh, golly, Congress is looking into it. Hey, they're about to end their congressional session now. We've literally wasted the whole, what Congress is this right now?
I don't know, the 279 millionth. I don't know. It seems like we've had way too many.
Whatever it is, though, think about it. They've wasted the whole thing. Now it's going to be, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They've really accomplished virtually nothing except for this big, beautiful boondoggle bill. And it had some good in it. Don't get me wrong. But for the most part, it was a disaster. They didn't deliver on any, really, of their promises, did they? I mean, I don't know. They didn't get rid of the education department. In fact, they're increasing money for education from what I understand.
Well, at every step of the way, they've stumbled or stepped in it. And we can talk about what they're stepping in. But the fact of the matter is, every single thing has been a failure. And we had our webinar last night again, and we talked about how, all of the things that they, are tussling about right now are all because of their own incompetence. I mean, whether it's the Democrats or the Republicans, the whole facade has been a facade. It's a phony baloney. Look at everything. So, I mean, we could spend hours on this thing, I'm telling you right now, but you know that.
It's disappointing, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm also disappointed in the next several stories about the president as well. And I don't mean to attack President Trump, but I've got to call a spade a spade. When something's right, I praise it. When it's not right, I tell you why. Is that fair? Let's do it in seconds. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. Sam Bushman, Dr. Scott Bradley, freedomsrisingsun.com. We're talking about President Trump pardoned this guy. What is it? Chempeng Zhao? Is that how you say it, Dr. Bradley? I'm not even good at these names.
You know, I got a kid that speaks Mandarin, but I sure don't.
All right. Anyway, his company is the largest crypto exchange globally. He had to plead guilty, failing to maintain an anti-money laundering program, had to go to prison. Now, hey, Trump just pardoned the guy. Yeah, and they've got overlapping crypto benefits following his release. Zhao expressed gratitude towards Trump and said, hey, I'm going to be one of the leaders in making sure that, listen, U.S. crypto leadership. Now, do we really want this guy? I don't know if he's a communist Chinese guy or who this guy is, but he's a global crypto leader that got caught literally. Okay, now this guy's like, yeah, I'm gonna really double down and make sure that U.S. has crypto leadership. Do we need crypto leadership, Doctor? Is that what we need?
You know what? I have grave doubts about that. I mean, that's kind of a very fluffy way to say it. There's been a pretty solid standard about what money was for millennia, literally.
So to me, the supreme law of our land needs to provide the leadership, but it isn't crypto. It's constitutional currency. It's gold and silver. And I don't think we need to be the digital manipulators of the world. See, all crypto or all these digital currencies or all these fiat currencies is we try to control the world, beat people down with our money, prop people up with our money. We become the master manipulators using filthy lucre as our, agent provocateur. It's disaster, Doctor. We don't want global leadership and fake money. Is that what we want to be known for? I think we ought to be, you guys play with your fake money all day. We're going to stick with real constitutional currency because that's what our supreme law calls for. Am I crazy?
Well, shades of Rothschilds. I mean, this really does smack of that whole program, that the Rothschilds have been manipulating and controlling economies for centuries. And literally, they have become the master mayhem of this whole thing where they're scurrilous at every turn. And the United States got involved in that, back in the 1800s with their agents here in America. And well, we don't need to review the debacle of money that's happened because we've allowed phony baloney private interests to control our economy. And you go back and look at the First National Bank and the nonsense that Andy Jackson had to go through to get that put to bed, and how it came back again in the early 1900s, and how we've lost 98% of our value of our dollar since they have been manipulating things. And the crypto thing's just another sleight of hand kind of thing. And I don't trust it for a nanosecond. This guy may be the chief manipulator of any kind of cryptocurrency, but Trump's in the middle of it, and everybody and their dog is coming up with these new trading schemes. And fine, let them go trade with each other. It's fine, but let's not base stuff in our economy upon stuff that's basically, in my opinion, it's the ultimate thing that can be manipulated. You talk about a central bank digital currency that would allow them to control every aspect of our currency, and by that, our money.
Not only would they be able to control the value of it, but they could make differing values for different people. $1 for Sam is a lot less valuable than $1 for Scott because Sam's more egregious than Scott is, kind of a thing. This is disaster, people, and what we need to really realize is this. If you want to do crypto, or if you want to barter, you can do whatever you want to in that world. You should be free to do so and not molested or interrupted by your government in doing so. The government should say, we hold the line on honest money, on asset-based currency. We don't control the currency. We just simply regulate the value of thereof and make sure there's a level playing field and that we're all kind of sitting at the same table for consistency and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, the government doesn't really have a role, right? The states and the general government have different responsibilities with honest money, right, Doctor?
Sam, just call me old-fashioned, but I'm going to refer back to the Constitution for just a moment. I mean,
That's a good plan.
One
I
little
like that.
tiny, just a comment or two, but if you go to Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5, Congress shall have power to coin money and regulate the value thereof. Okay,
so the reason they have power to coin money is just so everybody understands, because you're creating a level playing field there. How many grains of silver equals what? How many, how do we, connect the dots and make sure that there's consistency in the money, right? And then regulate the value thereof. They have the ability to, hey, what does an ounce of silver, an ounce of gold, or whatever mean, right? So they're really just playing the role of level playing field here, right?
What they did in the 1792 Coinage Act was they did exactly that. They said, this many grains of silver is $1. They defined $1 in terms of silver, okay? And there was an interchange at the time they defined between gold and silver. It was somewhat arbitrary because they picked a number, 15-1, if I recall correctly, silver to gold. And it later went to 20-1 in the 1830s. But okay, so what they were doing was they were establishing a standard that everybody went back to when they went into the grocery store and exchanged their silver for whatever. But then I go to Article 1, Section 10, Clause 1. It says, no state shall coin money, emit bills of credit, or make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. And so there has been a standard for the way the government will exchange things. Now, it's absolutely astounding to me that those that sit in office have never really seemed to have read any of these things.
And when they do that, it creates stability in the marketplace. When you do other things, you create a moral hazard, is what you create.
Well, absolutely true. In fact, promote the general welfare does not mean we're going to redistribute our wealth. We're not going to have some kind of a dole or anything like that. What the general welfare, as the founding fathers used it, was stability and predictability. That's what good government is. It prevents foreign, invasion. It prevents domestic rebellion. It prevents economic meltdown. People in a stable, predictable society, they can get married, they can have children, they can start businesses, they can go out and farm,
buy a house.
Right. But the fact is, the government has created everything but a general welfare today. The general welfare today is not predictable and stable. We got
because the reality is whatever the whim of the latest, I don't know if you want to call him a monarch, regime, whatever.
Yeah.
Instead of being a constitutional president, they're taking power illegally unto themselves, and it's just at the whim of whoever's in charge now. It's a disaster, and it needs to stop. So shame on Trump for pardoning this guy for sure, and we need to double down in constitutional currency, not try to be the leaders in digital, global, fiat, fake money. Now, President Trump also is kind of playing some politics here. The headline says he approved major disaster declarations for Alaska, North Dakota, Nebraska. Not to mention the Reach Lake, whatever, of Conjigui. I don't even know what that is. I don't know if it's some Indian reservation thing or what. I don't know anything about that. Except for then Trump basically denied funding requests to Maryland, Illinois, and Vermont. So the problem is the president's playing favorites now, just like Barack and just like Joe Biden did. See, Joe Biden, when it came to emergency relief for FEMA or whatever else, major disaster, they looked at Trump supporters and said, skip that house, and they played games. Now Trump is playing the opposite game. Why would we approve disasters for Alaska, North Dakota, Nebraska, but deny them for Maryland, Illinois, Vermont? It's all politically played. The approved declarations allow for FEMA financial assistance for, quote, public infrastructure, and in some cases, what they call survivor support. Trump, having won these states in previous elections, emphasized his victories on posts on social media. See, to me, I don't think you should be emphasizing your victories. I don't think that you should play games with politics on this. Furthermore, Trump has expressed intentions to reduce federal roles, encouraging states to assume more disaster responsibility. Now, on one hand, I think that's good, Doctor. I want the states to take more responsibility and the general government to get out of it. The problem is when you pick winners and losers, you're just playing partisan politics. And the problem is the Republicans are falling for it. They're like, yeah, we get our turn now. Finally, it's payback for these clowns doing this to us. We shouldn't stoop to their low. What we should simply say is there's no authority. Let me say that again. There's no authority for government to be giving anybody money anywhere for any disaster anytime. There's no constitutional authority. There's no delegated permission to spend money that way. Steal from my wallet to so-called deal with your favorite party's disasters and reject the other party's disasters. This is where I just part from Trump 100%, Doctor. There's no justification for this. Why are we spending this kind of money on any of these things?
Well, you've covered it pretty well, I'd say. The fact of the matter is that it's red and it's blue. They think in this, kind of dynamic of two colors. And the real thing, we got to stop thinking about right and left and whatever, and start thinking about principles, right and wrong. And they are absolutely wrong in everything they're doing. The Democrats always were, and the Republicans had a stroke over it. But the Democrats are out of office now, so it's, like you say, payback time.
And now the Republicans are doing exactly what they complained the Democrats didn't have authority to do. They also basically said, hey, you can't pick sides like that. How dare Lois Lerner do it? How dare the Democrats do it when they spy on Trump or spy on Republican congressmen and senators? How dare they? How dare? Now they're doing the exact same things in reverse. In fact, Trump's even starting up a new government program. Yeah, Trump's going to establish what's called the Beautifying Transportation Infrastructure Council. Are you kidding me? He doesn't have authority. We'll talk about it. You're watching Liberty Roundtable Live. All right, they say inflation is up to almost 3% again. Trump really trying to fight inflation. Gold and silver through the roof right now, ladies and gentlemen. And very difficult economic times. They say interest rates have dropped for home interest rates to the lowest. Mortgage rates, the lowest they've been in a year. So, there's some good signs and some bad signs all mixed together. But now Donald Trump says, hey, he's predicting $2 gas very soon. He says it might even go lower. I don't know really how to respond to that. Here's President Trump.
Down. I think you're going to see $2 gasoline very soon. I see that it's $2.50 in a lot of places, $2.50. We were heading to $5, $6, and $7. If Biden didn't go back to my policy toward the end, you would have seen. But he didn't go back to the full policy, and he missed the most important thing. So we were up to, we were way up. I think you're going to see $2 gasoline. We could even break that number. That's a big difference. The only cost that's really up is beef, and the fake news only wants to talk about beef. And what I did is I made it possible for those people to survive. They're incredible people. But they were being decimated by other countries, and I didn't want that to happen.
There you have it. Dr. Bradley, you want to respond to this?
Man, I'm holding my breath. I don't know if I can hold it that long for $2 a gallon fuel. In my own community, I kind of track the diesel fuel costs pretty carefully because that's what I put in my truck. I have never, ever, at any time in all of my born days, I don't know if that's a number you can put a good figure to, I have never seen diesel fuel higher than it is right now in my community. It's absolutely astounding to me. And I just say, wow, 6 months ago, it was much lower. And so I don't know. I don't know where he's getting his data. It's astounding. And my wife and I, when we go grocery shopping, it's an outing, you get a chance to be with your wife. Everything we look at, everything's $10 now, it seems like, almost any package, it's right around $10.
Well, when silver's $50 and gold's over 4,000, what do you expect, Doctor?
Well, see, that's the thing. fuel is a tangible asset, just like gold or
Commodity.
silver
Yep.
is. Okay, I kind of track. Okay, and it's maybe an anomaly in my life. I like to check regularly the spot price of silver, the spot price of gold, and crude oil prices, which seems like a really weird thing to look at, but it's just me. Okay, and honestly, I just if your gold and silver is at all-time highs, that's an indicator of the confidence in the dollar. And it's like, I tell people, you know what? You bought silver at $21 an ounce, and now it's bumping up against 50. You didn't make money on that. Still, silver is still silver. It's only what silver has always been for thousands of years. But what it means is that the purchasing power of the dollar has just tanked.
Yeah,
And
it used to be $1 for 1 ounce of silver. Now it's $50. So you've been fleeced 50 times, right?
exactly, and we can get a big long discussion, and I know you and I'd have a fun discussion with the Federal Reserve and what they've done to our economy. But the fact of the matter is, if somebody bought at 21, as someone I was just talking to yesterday, and it's nearly 50 now, that doesn't mean you made a huge increase in your funds. All you did was lose the purchasing power of the dollar. Gold or silver is still gold or silver, you know. And yeah, there's little
Oh, and
fluctuations
like
that
they
cause
say, you could
interest.
buy two. Um, let's see, what was it? You could buy how many loaves of bread was it? You could buy a certain amount of loaves of bread for a gold piece. 200 loaves of bread with a gold piece, right?
I don't know what gold. You know what? I remember when I was 4 years old, my mom would send me to the grocery store. It's really weird to think your mom gave you. She'd wrap coins in a handkerchief and tie a knot because she knew I'd lose them out of my pocket. I'd go over and I'd buy a dozen eggs, a quart of milk, and a pound of butter, and I'd bring change home. You know, and that was a long time ago, I admit. But the fact of the matter is, we have just decimated our economy with our fiscal policy and the Keynesians and all of their nonsense that everything's been from, everything from 1913 and the bankers and the Federal Reserve and these people have absolutely gutted economically our country, and I'm just waiting for. I mean, if gasoline or I hope diesel comes down to $2 a gallon, man alive, I'll take notice. I guarantee. But I'm not finding that. I just am not. I don't keep
Well, and
track of
the
the.
interesting thing about this is that they then say things are just going to be so awesome. You're going to have tons of money in your pocket, and it would help people if gas was $2 a gallon for sure. But that's not the only issue. The reason I think Trump thinks he can predict that it'll be $2 a gallon is he's opening up some Alaska for drilling, and he kind of thinks that will kind of make the difference. And whether it'll have as much effect in the real world as he hopes, don't know yet. Last time he basically opened things up for drilling, I guess there was no bids for some of it because it's just too hard to get to and too hard to pump oil out of these places, and the cost is exorbitant and stuff like that. So I mean, I hope he's right. But what I really hope is we can get inflation under control. The problem is, unless you go back to honest money, you'll never really get inflation under control, doctor. You just got to manipulate it and hide it because it's always ever present in a fiat system.
Oh yeah, the fiat money is just basically money they declared had value, but it doesn't. Well, they say the full faith and credit of the United States. Well, that gives you a lot of confidence nowadays. But the fact of the matter is, they say they declare, but in the old days, they had a tangible asset that was associated with that. The Coinage Act of 1792, it defined exactly what a dollar was. It said, this is a dollar. 371 and a quarter grains, and that was tied back to the grain of food. I mean, you took a grain of wheat or a grain of barley, and that was the origin of the grain system. But at any rate, no, we're nibbling around the edges, and we're going into phony baloney money. We talked about in the first hour about the this digital currency thing. It's whatever they say it is, basically. I mean, oh yeah, you got to go mine it with a computer. What? I mean, and then you go to the digital
Yeah, there
currency
you
for
go.
central banks. Holy cow! Everything's a
Anyway, they're
manipulation.
manipulating it till the cows come home. But if gold is what $4,000, you could get 200 loaves of bread, right? And you always have been able to do that, right? Or a good fine suit, a hand-tailored suit for an ounce of gold, that's easily done. And so the problem is these things are manipulated till the cows come home. Quick question for you, Doctor. Do you think that God is using Charlie Kirk's assassination to accomplish his greater plan?
I think God takes everything that we seem to dish on ourselves and can use it to the benefit of what we should all be achieving. Now, we may all be going to hell in a handbasket because of our morality or because of our stupidity in pursuing false narratives and all those kind of things. But I think he can use anything to his benefit because he's all wise and all knowing. And if we get really stupid, I mean, he can do anything from hurricanes and to earthquakes to melting the economy down, to bringing war and pestilence and famine, or to blessing you and your household. I mean, so I'm not going to say that, oh no, God can't use that. I mean, I fully believe that that God has a way of turning all things to his value if we're wise enough to listen. And that isn't always just hearing it with our ears. It might be hearing it with our hearts.
So the answer is you're saying yes.
I believe so.
that God can use all kind of things, good and bad things, to further his purposes. And I think he is accomplishing his greater plan with Charlie Kirk. A lot of people are going to church now. TPUSA spokesman Andrew Colvett basically told Fox News that I guess 4,000 new churches have joined in this vision of Charlie Kirk's, raising the total number of churches that are part of TPUSA now to 8,000 churches. Additionally, they say TPUSA has seen 200,000 new Christians become involved. Its social media channels saw an incredible uptick of 1,000% of what they call followers, viewers, and streamers. We've seen almost 1,000% growth across all social media platforms. Pretty impressive, Doctor.
Well, and honestly, and this is another deep topic that we don't have time to get into, but as the Zionists pulled away from Charlie because he was questioning the narrative on genocide in Gaza and all that kind of stuff. I mean, he has always been an ardent supporter of not only Trump, but Zionist kind of perspectives. And there were big donors that were pulling out because he was questioning that. And honestly, everybody in his age group, virtually everybody in his age group, has dropped dramatically their support of the modern state of Israel. But there's going to be Christians that come in if the Christian narrative is allowed to flourish. And so, people pull away and people come in, and I think they won't be left out in the dark and in the cold.
Hang tight, ladies and gentlemen. When we get back, we'll talk about the Q&A on the Constitution that took place last night. Details in seconds. All right, Dr. Scott Bradley with me, ladies and gentlemen. freedomsrisingsun.com is website. Q&As on the Constitution every Thursday night, 7 p.m. Mountain Time. Go to freedomsrisingsun.com and get your invite to the weekly Thursday night webinars. If not, you can check them out. Freedom's Call on Rumble and BitChute and just about everywhere else. Look for it, ladies and gentlemen. It's there. So, Dr. Bradley, what happened on the webinar first? How many stories of the webinar did you cover that we already talked about?
Well, most of the stuff is different, honestly.
Interesting. Okay.
And in the few minutes we got left, I mean, we can't even cover one topic in the time we did last night. But so I'll hit you a couple of things. You don't need to respond and just listen through. We'll listen to all 8. You might find one of them
all right, here we go.
Toward the end. Okay. So the United Nations global tax on global shipping. Okay, that was one item.
Disaster.
The big stir that's happening.
Constitutionally wrong. Shut it down now.
Wait, Sam. Next. We're not going to cover any of these things if you answer every one of them as we go. Holy cow.
My 10 seconds though tells you where we stand, right?
I know.
All right, number 2.
Okay, the East Wing's demolished for a big ballroom, and there's a big stir with different people that have.
And here's my response: when you're 38+ trillion in debt, it ain't time to build a ballroom. People, stop it.
They're doing it under private funding, by the way. $250 million of it. And I think Trump's going to put some of his own bucks into it.
All right. Well,
But you compare that to Obama during $376 million on a White House grounds project when he was in. I mean, holy cow. Anyway, there's a stir among the political world. The third one was an update on the shutdown and how it's affecting regular people. I mean, not just government workers, and it does
have all by design. Yeah,
sure, makes everybody painful. The Supreme Court is now involved in a case that's going to look at social engineering regarding redistricting and how do they. Since 1965 in the Voter Act, the redistricting.
Why do we have the district at all? Why don't we just jettison parties and we don't need the district? You just vote.
Well, and that's certainly true, but you do. I mean, they do determine House of Representatives based upon population. And so,
no, I get it, but the districting relates to who gets in what districts to further partisan politics. That's all the redistricting does. Otherwise, you just simply have a precinct and they vote for whoever they want to.
You're absolutely right. The partisan politics things into, but the color issue has been a big issue. Racially districting things. The Constitution is colorblind, and I just am appalled that we've let it go to this point, where everybody thinks that you got to go by the color of your skin, which is absolutely absurd. It's a social engineering thing. Number 5 was the Supreme Court is going to weigh in about if you use cannabis. They call it marijuana, but that's a pejorative term, and we could go into where that came from. Where if you use cannabis, can you have a firearm? And honestly, 50% of the states have said cannabis is legal for recreational use, but the federal laws, it's Schedule 1 kind of thing. If you say yes on the paperwork that you use cannabis, you can't have a gun. And the lower courts are saying it violates the Second Amendment. And the Fifth Circuit Court has now ruled on it and said, yeah, it violates the Second Amendment. And it's going to the Supreme Court. Yeah. Because people cannot have firearms if they are a user of cannabis.
And I think that's wrong. Thing. The First or the Second Amendment doesn't say anything about whether you're on cannabis or not.
Well, but that's what the courts are saying. If
I understand, yeah.
So anyway, it's going to be early 2026. I think there's going to be a ruling. It could be groundbreaking and earth-shaking, and ultimately may result in cannabis being taken off the Schedule 1 because the courts are, I think, likely with the current makeup of the Supreme Court, it's going to be something that is going to be a pretty big modification. We could talk about that at length too.
Yeah. Anyway, the bottom line though is, folks, I think the government has no authority relating to cannabis at all whatsoever.
Well, you're right, and most of the bad stuff that's out there. We're going to take a second on this, I guess, since we're kind of pushing on. Second Amendment's always a big issue for people. Alcohol has been a kind of I don't know what you'd call it, an icon or a central theme of the military. I mean, alcohol military stuff is kind of steeped in alcohol. Now, I was kind of in a transitional generation. I was in more than 55 years ago, and so alcohol was still there big time. One of my COs was a World War II vet. And some of the guys I worked with had other lower ranks than that. But at any rate, so their generation was steeped in alcohol. And the new generation coming in was picking up with some of the drug culture, with the hippie time and all that kind of good stuff. At any rate, personal observation, not from any personal experience. Trust me, Sam, you don't have to doubt anything about me becoming a user. But I watched the people that coped with PTSD type things. How did you digest some of the stuff that happens in a military environment and those that used alcohol versus those that used cannabis? My personal observation, all it is a personal observation. The cannabis had a better outcome, and the alcohol destroyed more and more and more over time. But
the problem is the government, at least at the general level, shouldn't have authority over alcohol or over cannabis or anything else for that matter.
Absolutely right. But here's the problem.
FDA, shut it down, Donald.
The big the big pharma, the Rockefellers of the world, before the 1930s, cannabis was a medicinal herb that was used for a wide variety of purposes.
And rightly so.
The bad stuff that gets people quote unquote addicted has been laced into it normally to get you into bigger stuff. I mean, and it's a long discussion.
It's a long deal. Bottom line, though, is we're just telling you the government needs to get out of it. The sooner the better.
Right.
Next.
We did talk a little bit about the No Kings demonstration that you asked about earlier.
Yeah.
Florida, next one was Florida's apparently, I'm trying to read the question here, in the process of eliminating government mandates for vaccinations. And we talked about that. And I think some of that is being done administratively in the executive branch, and then the legislature is going to have to be involved. I think that the mandates by government and everything like that need to get them out of that business of compulsion, free will, choice and accountability. I think that's God's plan. And one of the things that got kind of rolled in with that, though, was it's kind of an interesting side trip. In Florida, they're releasing these genetically modified mosquitoes. And I'm saying, you dink around with that. What else are you churning up? You know, where's the problem here, kids?
It's mad scientist. It's not scientific. It's psychotic. It's dangerous. And really, the United States, in bed with the communist Chinese, with playing with these viruses, are what caused COVID in the first place. The evidence is out. The problem is we'll never really get to the bottom of it in terms of accountability, because I don't think the Republicans care. They're too busy saying you ought to fund my plan to keep government open. Let's build big, beautiful buildings. Let's run around and do this. Let's do that. Let's get a big ballroom in the White House. And they're all derailed by things that, in my mind, are irrelevant at this time.
It's bread and circuses. And the final one, and you may want to go back to any of them in the 5 minutes approximately we got left, but the final one was applying baseline principles to restore what we've lost. And that's where I think there's a real, it's a secret almost, the secret sauce that'll bring back this nation. It already exists.
It's the secret sauce in plain sight, Doctor.
It is. We've got 250 years of experience on this thing. And people are just saying, no, I'm not going to use that. I'm going to try my new formula. And it's genetically modified mosquitoes, and it's gain of function things on diseases. I mean, it's bread and circuses. It really is. But those were the 8 things that came up last night. And again, if you want to go back, and we could give more detail, but we've kind of used up a lot of our time that we had. 2 hours goes by so fast. I can't hardly believe it.
Yeah, and I think we really covered a lot of good topics for today, though. We've highlighted what's right and wrong in the proper role of limited government. We've explained to people what government authority is and not, and go read your constitutions. And, we've kind of highlighted, in my mind, some real key things in America that matter. If Charlie Kirk's life can be used, or God can use his life and his passing away for God's purposes, then we can use that in our lives. And that's really, in my mind, the biggest takeaway for us all on this thing, is that's what we need to do, right?
Well, absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a Charlie Kirk-based solution, although he was, I think, trying to turn people to God and the baseline principles. What are we doing with our lives? I mean, it's one of those things where you and I each are accountable for our own lives in the eyes of God. And I think that a lot of times we say, oh, I'm not a Charlie Kirk, or I'm not a Donald Trump, or I'm not a Nancy Pelosi, whatever.
I'm a Sam Bushman, though, buddy.
Yeah, you are. And you make
and I'm important, not because I'm a rock star, that I'm more important than anybody else, but we need to realize that we have a godly and American heritage, and that is something to celebrate, something to be grateful for, and something to say and to ponder on and say, I've been blessed with so much. That means I have tremendous responsibility as well.
Well, final word to you, Doctor. Turn your life back over to the Savior. Not back over. You maybe never had it there before, but I think if we have a Christ-centered life, I think that a lot of things will turn out better for not only ourselves, but our whole nation. It's a kind of a cumulative kind of thing.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Check out Dr. Bradley's weekly webinars available at freedomsrisingsun.com. You can sign up and get an invite. Otherwise, you can watch them later on BitChute and everywhere else. Look for Freedom's Call. But if you go to freedomsrisingsun.com, you can also check out his collegiate series, To Preserve the Nation. It's an incredible lecture and DVD and series with a booklet to help you learn the proper role of constitutional government, the moral cause, all about God, family, country. Let's say it that way. It is a faith-filled, freedom-loving, fantastic Friday, so have a delightful weekend full of God, family, and country, will you? For Dr. Bradley and Sam Bushman, God save our republic.